You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's ride!
Well, we have a new... I'm so happy with that standby screen. That is an actual loop that we made. Anthony got some really great footage of the ice cream truck, Dominic's ice cream truck at the Spring Fling when we had that, half hour, 45-minute downpour or something like that. And it just set up some really great imagery. And Anthony just sat there and he was just filming it. And there's another one where there's lightning strikes that he caught in the background. Maybe I'll dig that one up, see what we can do with it. Anyway, it's a cloudy, overcast, and any moment there's going to be rain over here. So I said, you know what? I'm going to set the mood. Set the mood of what's going on over here, just outside the window at the studio. And I hope that you guys are having a great night. 7:02 on the East Coast. It's June 10th, 2026. And tonight, we are going to have a really incredible show. I can't wait. I really can't, because we have a debut, Quite Frankly debut tonight. I love doing those. Scott Dawson. He's a historian and author whose research has produced pretty riveting work debunking the myth of the Lost Colony of Roanoke. Was it actually lost? That's the question we are going to explore tonight. We're going to go back 400 years to pick apart a story that we've all heard in school. I know I did in one form or another. And it is one of the lynchpins of early American history, at least, the settling of America from Europeans, the Western Hemisphere, our time here, or, at least of this go around. In the second half, we're going to turn our gaze to the situation in Belfast in Ireland. The anger that's being violently expressed out there in the streets. Is it a righteous anger? And what could possibly come of it? Necessary? Well, I got a lot of things to say there. And then, of course, on the flip side, it's overtime with Matt Christensen. So, which will no doubt be news heavy. God knows what else we're going to talk about. But I have a main topic tonight, and in the second half, aside from opening up the lines for comment for what we're about to do right now with Scott Dawson, we are going to be able to just do that second topic in Europe. And then the rest I'll leave up to Matt. I'm sure we're going to be right in on the news, and there's plenty there. So that's what I have. On the other side of all of this is a voice note that I was given. There's a lot of reasons for people are kind of despairing, and we always try to resist the black pills. If anything, take the white pill. Take the clown pill. Take care of what you can control. Never despair. God doesn't want you to despair. Well, here is a voicemail that was left for me a couple of hours ago by our friend Kenny in Cleveland. Let's see what he has to say.
Just simply experiencing America. It's better, P.O. Frank. Something I wanted to touch on real quick as I'm taking in this day baseball game between my tribe and your Yankees. It's a don't take the black pill moment. You watch on Twitter, I think everybody's kind of noticed. It's kind of blowing up of all these Europeans that have come here for FIFA, the World Cup, just kind of going around to all these stadiums and just being so enthralled with the venues that they're at and just the kind of shared culture that we as Americans and the Europeans kind of get to embrace each other in. And they're just going around, and this one guy, he's a German dude. I think his name's Freddie. He's just posting everywhere he's gone. and just how nice everybody is. And the dude is just like a kid in a candy store with everywhere he's gone in America. I mean, these people are just like enthralled with everywhere they're going, and I think it's cool. There's a lot of negativity out there as always, and there's a lot of stuff that everybody's unhappy about, but humanity in itself and how we share our lived experience, it's pretty cool to see that, especially for a host nation, to see all these people come from all walks of life all over the world, and they're just simply experiencing America. It's better PR than the America 250 Commission could have ever done for our country. So I think that's cool.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I haven't even noticed, but that's I like opening. I like getting this from people who are noticing. I know that there's every once in a while people make World Cup comments, and I keep forgetting that it's in the United States. I keep forgetting that at least one of the designated stadiums is over here. I don't know if they're going to be in the Meadowlands or they're just going to be in New York area, the tri-state area, but it just goes right over my head. So. I mean, when it starts, there's going to be no way to get around it, because every time somebody scores a goal, then, one diaspora in town over another is going to be honking their horns and screaming, and it never ends. So maybe it'll be just better this time, because the games will be played in American time zones, and when maybe we'll just all be sleeping at the same time. There won't be half of the town up watching a game that's on the other side of the world. Perhaps that will be in our favor for those of us who don't watch soccer, but I don't know. I'm sure once it kicks off, I'll pay attention. But from that standpoint, yeah, it's good to think about it, and especially when you talk about cultural expression here. That will lead us into other stories that we've held pretty tightly onto for a long time, and so it doesn't really, like, for example, what we talk about tonight with Roanoke. The Lost Colony of Roanoke. That's not something that everybody wakes up and have pride in the morning about Roanoke. We came over here, then Jamestown afterwards, and all that other stuff. But it's just one of those things that we learned along the way, and perhaps the importance of something like that has never really been realized, especially if it's not what we originally thought it was. So yeah, that's 400 years ago. And this might be 4 hours from now, the World Cup, and I wouldn't have even known it. Anyway, we're bridging a lot of gaps here. But real quick before we get into anything else, I just wanted to thank my sponsor for tonight. Who probably would have really loved to use a little of this in the Lost Colony of Roanoke was the colonists themselves and the bone broth they didn't have. I just want to thank my friend Molly from Keto Brainz, good friend that I got to meet now and has been supporting this show in the Spring Fling. So many of you out there have the bone broth now. Heal your gut, strengthen your body with the Pharmalogical bone broth. I put the link in the chat rooms. It's pinned in the comments. It's in the actual episode itself. It is a full spectrum collagen protein broth straight from clean New Zealand cows. Incredible health weapon to have. Keep it in your cupboards, especially alongside of the Keto Brainz. They go together so well. 15% off. Use promo code Frankly, FARMALOGICAL.com, pharmalogical.com. Show Ollie some love. They are a very small company. They're trying to do something good in the world with a fantastic product, and I just want to thank them for everything. Okay, so the Lost Colony of Roanoke. Now, we learned about this in school. I'm sure you have as well as children. It was meant to be one of those spooky instances, those spooky tales of the risks that European settlers took in order to seek out life on a strange new frontier. That's what we always got from this. And of course, sometimes those risks did not yield great reward, at least for the people who were taking the risks, maybe for future generations. But an early European settlement that vanished. That's what we were talking about here. An early European settlement that just vanished without a trace. That is the story about Roanoke. And I hadn't even thought about the story of Roanoke until a member of this audience turned me on to the work of Scott Dawson. I had not even thought about the word Roanoke, or the colony of Roanoke, in probably close to 20 years or so. And then somebody from this audience said, Frank, have you ever seen the work of Scott Dawson on this? He's a historian, an author who has spent years challenging one of the most famous stories in American history, at least early American history, the mystery of the Lost Colony of Roanoke. And this is drawing on archaeology, colonial records, and his lifelong connection to North Carolina's Outer Banks. Scott argues that the colonists didn't mysteriously vanish at all, and they were actually leaving behind clues telling us exactly where they went. Well, he's here today to talk about it with us. The man himself, Scott Dawson. Welcome to the show, sir. Scott, you there? He says we're connected. Well, that was almost seamless. Hold on. Something's happening. Scott, are you there? Can you hear me? It's live, ladies and gentlemen. This is why we do it live, because every once in a while this might happen. And it adds a little bit of character to everything. Hold on. This looks like something's happening. Well, I know that I think Scott is stateside, so I don't know what's going on with it's a bad connection with Zoom. All right. Well, let's see. Let's see what happens if I well, I don't know what to say, ladies and gentlemen. You know what? I want to be able to troubleshoot this, but it's very hard to do it when everybody's just. Hold on, I think we might have him now. Scott, do you hear me now? Scott, do you hear me? Well, he. Scott, I hear you typing. Do you hear me talking? Can't hear anything. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna have to go on a break. I will be just give me a second, will you? And because this is just not going to be very entertaining. So I will put on a little bit of music and I will be right back, okay? Do not go anywhere. I promise you. We'll be right back. All right, folks. Listen. We're having some issues. I don't necessarily know what they are. Um, it's not the best of connections, but we've seen that before, and he just doesn't hear me. It's nothing on my end. He's doing a little bit of troubleshooting over there, and this is the way it's going. Do I want to pull out the last couple of hairs I have left? Of course. But what is that going to do? So we see where this goes, and still can't hear, he says, and I don't know. What's the solution? I think I hear him. Scott, you sure you don't hear me? I hear him milling around, but there's just that. So, I don't know.
I can't hear anything.
Oh man, that's too bad. it's almost like Interstellar or something like that. Like I'm hiding behind the bookcase or something like that. Let's just end. I'll end the call completely, and we will try from scratch. There you go. Okay, so I'm going to end the call completely. Boom. It's all over. And now let's try it again, shall we? And I'll just have to clip all this out and re-upload it as its own episode, to be honest. If it does work. Because, as you know, people aren't really finding shows by just stumbling upon a 2-hour live broadcast and being like, oh, I want to watch this from start to finish. So this live experience is really just for you guys. You come here for all the fun and sometimes all the warts as well. I would say that this is a little bit of a wart, but we're good at that. Hopefully we can keep it a wart. It doesn't become a goiter. Just something a little. A skin tag. Maybe we can shrink it into a skin tag. All right, here we go. Here it comes again. Scott, you hear me?
Yeah, I'm doing it on my phone instead.
All right, we can work with that.
I mean, I don't know what happened. This is better than,
It's hey, listen, it's better than nothing. It's good to have you. You think we can get a horizontal shot?
Yeah, that's what I was going to walk around, try to find it better.
Well,
with a light not blasting there or something.
Yeah, you know what? I think that this is going to work out just fine. It really is. So, hey, and I'm just happy that we're talking right now. It's good to see it, man. So you're in North Carolina right now?
Yeah, man, the Outer Banks, nothing works,
Oh, okay. So then I was going to say.
I'm in Kill Devil Hills right now.
Right. Okay, so obviously we have a little bit of a lag there. Okay.
Yeah, and we go from 30,000 to 300,000 in the summer, so Wi-Fi sucks.
All right. Well, I guess I didn't think that we would had to done a little bit of a communications test beforehand, but how could we have gotten around this either way? I still wanted to have a talk with you. I think your work is fantastic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to ask questions when I absolutely need to, and otherwise just give you some room to talk so that we don't have to deal with the lag, we're talking over each other and all that stuff, and I'll clean this up afterwards and we'll upload it. So Scott, for people who know the phrase, I did a bio of yours before you came on. For people who know the phrase, the Lost Colony of Roanoke, and nothing else, what's the story that they know, and then what is the story that all of your work has really gone into telling of what happened, what you believe happened, what the evidence points to? I'm just going to give you the floor, and I'd love to hear this just to set the foundation, and then I have a bunch of follow-ups for you.
The story that most people hear about the Lost Colony, if they hear it at all, is that a group of 117 English colonists went to Roanoke Island in North Carolina, and their governor left to get resupplies. And when he came back, they all vanished. And they left a cryptic message on a tree that said Croatoan. And then they tell them no one knows what that means. Dun dun dun. I wonder what happened. And it's just a giant marketing campaign that was trying to sell tickets to a play. So they created a mystery, and somehow that myth got way out of hand, and they teach it in school and everything. None of that is true, of course, but that's what most people hear. So what we're trying to do is tell the truth and then do a little science to prove it. In real life, the word Croatoan, which was that part is tree, that is just the name of the next island down, which is current day Hatteras Island. The English had Croatoan men on the ship with the colony coming from England. They had lived on the island of Croatoan on and off for 3 years. They had been in constant contact with that tribe the entire time. There's a whole 900-page long, I guess it's not a book, it's a collection of books that the court historian of Queen Elizabeth, Richard Hakluyt, compiled, and the Croatoan are mentioned throughout all of them. So to turn around and say no one has ever heard of this word is it's being really dishonest. And I get it, they're trying to sell tickets, but that's fine. But they shouldn't be teaching that in school. And sometimes, that happens. Things get whitewashed. But in reality, the Croatoan are mentioned throughout. So we went to the Croatoan villages and did archaeology to see if we could preserve any Croatoan artifacts. Since they've been erased from history, at least we could put together some clay pots and try to salvage something. And everybody in this area knows the Lost Colony was never lost. They met their grandkids. The English did. Blue-eyed Indians that told them what happened, mentioned, Raleigh by name, and there wasn't a mystery at all until 1937. That whole thing is a recent myth. So we did some science, and we ended up finding artifacts from that colony. And for a long time, all we could say is we're finding 16th century English artifacts, and they are in a layer that is from that age. But you had voyages before the Lost Colony that also went to Hatteras in 1584 and in 1585. So it's really hard to tell the difference between that and 1587, which is the colony. But we were able to get around that hurdle too, and recently found an entire blacksmith shop complete with the hammer scale and all these repurposed tools. They're making axe heads out of their door hinges. They're making arrowheads out of glass bottles. They've repurposed gun barrels, like all of the irons repurposed. This is indicative of the colony that was abandoned and not the military settlements that were there for months at a time. And that's exciting, So we're just trying to tell the truth. That's all.
So Scott, do you hear me all right? Am I coming in? Okay, cool. So then here's I want to get around to that play, but first I want to get around to the whole, like you said, military. And I don't know who else learned the story like I do. I have to imagine most people in the audience that this was a settlement of families that were putting themselves out on a limb to go to a new place and just to be frontiersmen in what is essentially a whole new world. So the whole idea that I learned through you that this was a military outpost and that they were that the conditions over there were a little bit, well, actually drastically different. Talk about that. Just to right. Drive home. This is a military outpost. These were not just families from Europe that were showing up and hoping to learn how to grow corn.
Right. Yeah. In the beginning, it's pure military. There's no women at all. So it's not a colony because back then, men couldn't have babies. So I said it. When they came to the New World, the English were at war with Spain, and Spain was actually a lot stronger than the English at the time. And one of the things that the English proposed to the Queen that she should try to do is step up the piracy. And they wanted to find a place that they could have a base of operations where they would catch the Spanish on their way home. Because if you catch the Spanish on the way to Spain, you get gold, silver, sugar, whatever. If you catch them on the way out, you're just getting tools and clothes or whatever. They knew from charts that they had captured of this island, Croatoan, and they sent out a recon group for 2 ships. It's only like 40 people, and it's all men. It's important because it establishes contact with the Croatoan people, because that's where they landed and that's where they lived, not Roanoke Island. And they need this island, Croatoan, because it's on the ocean and you can actually spot ships coming up the Gulf Stream and rob them. Roanoke Island, you can't even see the ocean, and they don't bother with Roanoke at all. The natives that go back to England with them, Manteo and Wanchese, from Roanoke Island. Neither one of them was a chief. They never fought each other, but there's a lot of misinformation out there because that's what happens in the play. And so people think it's real. Whatever, it's not. But these guys go to England, they learn English, and when they come back the next year is when they really step it up. And they bring 600 soldiers on 7 ships, and they don't go to Roanoke either. They steal a couple ships from Spain on the way over, and they are kind of scattered by a storm, so they don't all arrive at the same time. But the first ship that arrives just drops everybody off at Croatoan and leaves and goes to pirate the Spanish some more. And they're dropping these men off at Croatoan, right? No one goes to Roanoke until 5 months into the second year. They had their new friends of Croatoan they've been trading with have enemies too, right? They're fighting another tribe across the Sound called Sequotin, and they begged the English to attack them, and the English said no and stayed out of it, and then they don't. That's the short version. And they burned this village to the ground named Guskelcock over nothing and a stolen cup. That's really literally all it was. And then they got to go meet with the chief and try to patch things up. And he's at a town called Dasakamanapo, which is near Roanoke Island. So they send some of the men up there to deal with that. And he sends them on a wild goose chase to get the source of the pearls that they see everywhere. And he just sent them up a river to where his allies were going to ambush them. But the English fought their way out with grape shot, and they did get showered with arrows along the river. But when they came back, they discovered that the chief of the Sequotin, was plotting to kill them by lighting their houses on fire at night. And when they ran out without armor, shooting them with arrows and killing. So they set an ambush and kill him and shot him in the back and cut his head off. Meanwhile, the guys living on Croatoan, the English down there, spot a fleet coming up from the Gulf Stream that's English, and they flag them down with smoke and get rescued and go home. They'd been there 14 months with no resupply at all, and they were supposed to get some every 3 months. So they end up just leaving. And of course, as soon as they leave, their resupply comes in and doesn't know that they hitchhiked home. And they also don't know that going to Roanoke is suicide. And they go up there and get killed. When the colony comes the following year, they bring back natives with them, Manteo and another guy named Towe. And they only stopped at Roanoke Island to pick up these soldiers. They had no intention of living there. That's the other thing people are misled to believe. They came to Roanoke Island to settle. No, they did not. They went there to grab these soldiers and leave. But those guys were dead, and they didn't know that. When they got there, they found their skeletons sitting on the surface, and one of the colonists gets ambushed. They shot him 16 times with arrows, beat his brains out. His name was George Howe. When that happens, they left. and went to Croatoan. This is before the governor left. They go back to Croatoan and they say, somebody just killed one of our men. We're looking for these soldiers that were left here. Do you know what happened? The Croatoan gave him a detailed account and told him it was the Saquatin did it, and one native was killed, and they give a whole detailed account of what happened. And the English begged them, can you please negotiate peace on our behalf and talk to the Saquatin for us? And the Croatoan agreed to do that. But what ends up happening is Saquatin village and steal all their corn. And the English are kind of fine with that. That's the situation they're in when the governor is informed by the ships that the guys on the ships are refusing to move them anywhere because they want to go pirate the Spanish and they're tired of wasting time. So the governor goes back to the colony and said, I'm sorry, they're leaving. They're not going to take you to Chesapeake Bay, which is where they had wanted to go. Just carve out on a tree where you relocate to so that I know. And they did. Croatoan. And he wasn't confused by that at all. He tried to come down immediately and they got hit by a storm. The 8 of them had the captain. So the new captain didn't want to press on. They lost their anchors. They couldn't even stop. They would have had to scuttle and just been more refugees.
Well,
they end up scuttling in Ireland.
Well, Scott, let me jump in for a second. First of all, in a few moments, we're going to see nothing but your ear. You're floating away. I'd love to get you back in frame.
Sorry,
yeah, slowly you were just kind of like falling away. Secondly, so that's an interesting thing there. Like really, the timeline that you laid out. Okay, now we understand why people showed up, nobody was there, and it looks like an entire settlement had been completely abandoned, or everybody was wiped out. And how do you account for the human remains, and why is nobody else anywhere to be found? And of course, the common use and the strategic location of Croatoan, and why that would be like almost like a, hey, we went out for milk, you can find us over here kind of a thing, or whatever. I don't know. It seems a little bit more of a pragmatic telling of what was going on over there, drastically different from what we got in grade school. So my question is, I guess what I was going to ask you there too is, when you're making when you're making this kind of an argument, when you take something like the Lost Colony and how it might actually be an example now, one of the first North American colonial examples now of how a narrative becomes actually more valuable or popular than reality. The question from there would be, who benefited the most from keeping this mystery alive for 400 years? And before you had talked about this, really being popularized, this fallacy being popularized through a stage play, is that really as far as it goes, as deep as it goes, as far as the benefit? It was just a stage play? And do the people tell me a little bit about the actual writing of the play and whether or not the playwrights themselves knew the real story and were taking creative license, or were just ignorant to how things went down over there and thought this was actually true?
Oh, they absolutely lied on purpose. Like, nobody's that stupid. The Croatoan are mentioned throughout the story. On every page. They live on Croatoan for years before they mention Roanoke at all. It's mentioned far more than Roanoke. It's like a race in Germany from World War II. They did it on purpose to create a mystery to sell tickets. And in the end, the race mixing that went back in 1937 when that play came out, that was unacceptable. We were still segregated in North Carolina. You read about like the different water fountains and all that. We had that. And that is the atmosphere where the play was born. So they absolutely were never going to say,
oh, this was a 20th century play.
Yeah.
So you're saying that the history that you're telling right now, that was common knowledge until the 20th century.
Right.
Oh,
they invented this story. This whole narrative about the Lost Colony is 100% a marketing campaign that is barely tied to reality at all. Like, it is less accurate than Disney's Pocahontas, and that had a talking tree in it, you know. So yeah, it's insane. They give the latitude of the inlets of Croatoan are listed, and it's on the maps. Like, it's not a debate where it is or why they would go there. All of that is known, but they teach in school. No one knows what this means at all. The History Channel said it could have been an omen of death, and then they reduced it to 3 letters instead of the full word to make it more of a mystery. The mysteries sell, right? So people are willing to lie and do that. American Horror Story represented the Croatoan as vampire wraths. And that's kind of funny because it's so over the top that no one's gonna believe that, right? But the lies that are annoying are the ones people believe, because it erases the Croatoan people from history completely. If you say you've never even heard of this word, they don't tell you it's an island or a tribe, and they erase everything that they did. So that is why we're doing what we're doing. Is I don't know the Lost Colony. I'm sure they went to Croatoan and most of them died pretty quick. But I do care about that tribe being erased entirely from history just to promote this kind of racist version. They for a long time just led you to believe that I bet these savages killed them, right? They had a woman running around on stage on fire and all these attacks that didn't happen, and like it was just bullshit. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on the show, but that's all it is. And you know, let's make science great again. Like, that should matter. I think what we're doing, we're carbon dating the teeth. We're looking at the isotopes of the copper. This is real science that's going on. These guys that are doing this are world renowned. And I'm just the local liaison that is from the island and could show them where it was. Right.
Yeah.
And so I get to tag along, but these guys know what they're doing, and they're from Los Angeles or London or whatever. They don't have any. They just want to know what's real, and I do too. So I kind of hand it off to them, and they're saying the same thing I am. It's like, this is clearly a 16th century settlement. There's a blacksmith shop. There's a longhouse right next to it, right? And it's in a Croatoan Indian village. You see it. There's thousands of artifacts from the Croatoan because there's way more of them, right? And then you have these couple trunks full of English things in there.
Yeah.
So
when we've done episodes in the past about ancient megalithic sites or something like something like Göbekli Tepe and other ancient sites around the world that people want to investigate more, but are being stonewalled by governments or presiding experts of our time, and we often ask the question, why? Why can't we get just a little bit of more inquiry? Wouldn't a little bit more information be good, where you can either confirm something that was thought before or actually come into a new understanding that might actually benefit the world for, having a little bit more of a cleaned up understanding of where we came from or something like that? And we asked that question: is it bad scholarship? Is it like prideful gatekeeping? Is it tourism reasons? Is it mythology or something? But what you're talking about is just ticket sales at a theater. So, but I don't where the shelf life of that needing to be of being attractive to sell tickets. That's a very short shelf life. I haven't even heard of this play until right now. How has this survived for so much more than a century at this point? Oh no, just about a century, I guess.
Yeah, it's been 87 years. And what it is the island where that play is doesn't have a beach. Like, it's a marsh island in the Sound. It'd be like an island in a lake. But it's right next to the Outer Banks, which has, real beach, surfing and fishing and all that stuff. So there's already a ton of tourists nearby, but they have no reason to go to Roanoke at all, except for this fake history. Every single street is named after a character from the play. They have a replica of a ship that never even went there, right? And they have like a whole economy that thrives on this. They have a statue of Virginia Dare, the first white child born in the New World, which they put on a sign, as you pull into town. It's kind of embarrassing. And she's an adult somehow in this statue. And is she wearing deer skins and tattoos? No, of course not. Girl, had she lived to be an adult, would have spoken Algonquin and probably, but it doesn't even occur to them. All of the focus is on the Dare family. They name the county Dare, right? And here the Croatoan people are who gave the English 6 freshly killed deer every day, traveled to England and back with them twice, fought a war against another tribe on their behalf, ultimately adopted them, and we've never heard of this word at all. That is criminal to be that far off base. And I get it. In the 30s, we're segregated, they're racist, that was part of the motivation. But today, that's embarrassing to continue with that nonsense. It makes our state look bad. And I just think it's time to let it go. But their economy is so tied to it. And we had a senator for like 40 years whose mom and wife were in that play, right? So it's just their whole identity, and they're never going to let it go. And a lot of them just don't even realize it's completely false because they've never read anything. And they just go, people just go by what they hear. And I don't know. I don't think they're ever going to change.
Well, this makes a lot of sense for something else too. I was going to ask you about a lot of sense, especially since you brought up the year 1937, because I was going to ask you about this supposed Dare stone, and now it's just, it was always seemed to be a forgery. I always heard that, and it mentioned all the characters you were just talking about there, including Virginia Dare. And now I'm just thinking to myself, how convenient that these supposed stones that go back to that time period that document either the life or the death of some of these central characters to this play are coming out the same year that the play is launched.
Well, that stone is as fake as Laura Loomer's lips. The guy that created it, all right, first of all, here's his story of how he found it. He's from California. He just watched the play, right? He just watches the play. He's driving back to California. He gets 2 hours into the mainland, maybe, and stops to pick berries that he doesn't know are there in a state where he's never been, walks 2 miles into the woods, and finds a stone on the surface somehow by none other than Virginia Dare's mom. I mean, how dumb do you got to be? He tries to sell it a couple places and they laugh at him. And then he finally gets to a college in Georgia. I won't even embarrass him by mentioning where, and sells it. The same guy got caught faking archaeology in New Mexico and in San Francisco. He tried to fake a bronze plaque from Francis Drake, and he kept getting them notarized. So you have his signature and all these things. And it's hard to track in the 30s, I guess, but today it's real easy to see what's going on. And they've also looked at the Dare stone, and there's clear drill marks on it, and it's been stained with vegetable oil and scraped with steel sponge, and it's ridiculous. And they blame the Indians for murdering everybody and torturing Virginia Dare. And it was a response to the play, because in the end of the play originally, they had them at the end marching off to Croatoan. It got less accurate as it went on. They made it more and more of a mystery because they were lying. And they also just didn't like them living with Indians. So they wanted it to be more leaning toward, I bet they were all killed. They used to have a big mural, the National Park Service. You walked in to this building right next to the play, and it's huge. It was the size of a wall. And it was a bunch of native guys with weapons terrorizing and burning an English village with a white lady holding a baby hiding behind a tree. And they don't have it up anymore, right? There's a little progress. They stopped painting white kids brown to play the natives, I think, like 2 years ago. So whatever, baby steps. It's North Carolina, but so that's kind of what we're dealing with.
So, so so then, as far as Virginia Dare's story goes, what is the story here? Like you said, the first English child born in the Americas. Her birth was like the last. I heard. We got that her birth was the last documented event before Roanoke allegedly vanished. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm only throwing out what the official story is now. Now it all just seems so silly the way that you have colored all this in. So, what is the actual truth there about Virginia Dare?
Well, she was born August 18th. There was another baby born, baby Harvey. Poor Harvey, no one cares about. And we don't know if she died the next day. Probably not, but there's no story about Virginia Dare at all, other than just whimsical stuff about her turning into a albino deer. And there's been more crap fiction written about Virginia Dare, that one child, than the entire Croatoan tribe, which is a people we do know what happened. They live on the island for centuries after that, and hear from them throughout. And they're all mixed in with the English as well. But as far as individuals like Virginia Dare, we don't know what happened to her. She could have died of a fever a week later, or she might have lived and had 8 kids with a guy named Tamaniak. I mean, we don't know.
In preparation for this show, Scott, I actually read about how some modern DNA projects have actually tested local families to see if they can find any genetic links to either Virginia's parents or bloodline. Or do you know, with all the archaeology, all the investigation you have done, have you ever considered any kind of genetic testing, or do you know of any meaningful searches for original bloodlines in the area?
No, there's no Lost Colony DNA to compare it to in England or anywhere else. So there's no point doing it. And the DNA,
well, let me just clarify, not necessarily to the Lost Colony, but just
yeah,
to the people who were there in Croatoan, and maybe the people that these characters were based on.
it doesn't really tell you anything, so we don't pursue it. Wait, like if you have native blood, it's not going to say Croatoan versus Cherokee versus, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
even if it shows up as native, you can't prove which one, right? So there's no point in doing it. And the other thing is just going to be English, Irish, or whatever, and that's everyone. So it doesn't really further it. A lot of these groups are a little nefarious, trying to sell DNA kits, and it really isn't helpful at all. You could be 50% black, right? If both of your parents were half white and half black, and it was your dad's mom was 100% black, and your mom's dad was 100% black, your DNA would show 0, because it can't switch genders. Like, it can only do your mom's mom or your dad's dad. So right off the bat, 50% of your DNA is not even testable. And if you go back another generation, you miss more. And if you're going back all the way to like the 1500s, you basically, you might as well consult the configuration of your Cheerios in the morning. I mean, it doesn't really do anything. So we're trying to look at real physical things that you pull out of the ground, you know, and that you can test, that you can carbon date, things that we do know how to do. Maybe in the future they'll improve DNA testing and be able to, you know, get everybody instead of just one line. If that happens, great. But at the moment, we're just trying to focus on what can tell us the most, which is archaeology. The primary sources are already there. There is nothing indicating this colony missing or lost at all. That's 100% coming from fiction, and that fiction isn't based on a myth. They created the myth that day, like in a boardroom. It's not a 400-year-old mystery, even year old marketing campaign. The textbooks prior to the play tell the truth.
What does the finish
I
line?
have a collection of them. They start from the 20s. You know, they'll tell you Hatteras' Croatoan, like it's all there.
So what does the finish line? You have the book. I definitely want to buy it. I want to get it onto my bookshelves over here. Here it is on Amazon, The Lost Colony in Hatteras Island. Scott Dawson. Got a hell of a lot of 5-star reviews. I'm definitely going to be getting this. Maybe I'll just get it for my Kindle because look, it's $0 for my Kindle. I don't know. I don't know, but I like paperback, so I think I just might go ahead and splurge on one of those. But still, aside from you've got this published, and of course, this is only 87 years. So much of my understanding of where this conversation may have gone was really thrown out the window when I realized, because I don't have the book yet, but your story on this topic in particular is, I was urged, hey, bring on Scott, let him talk about the Lost Colony. It's just incredible to me that we're really just talking about 87 years worth of history. It's not a 400-year cover up. I guess you can say so, but the fact that the origin story is really 1937, that's blown my mind today. And so my question is, what's the finish line look like for you on this particular topic? Since you've already got everything, you talk about it as much as you can, and you got the book published. What would you like to see happen in the years to come to make this fully right that you can walk away from it?
I would like to see the schools teach that Croatoan is Hatteras Island. There's a tribe here. They did A, B, C, D, and just tell the truth. Include them in the story. Include the Secleton in the story, and the Weepamayak, and the Nusiak, and the Mandawag. And instead of just taking a broad brush and going Indians, like it was all one, I would like to see the native side of the story told in school. And I don't understand why there's resistance to that. It's all written down anyway. Just start telling the truth. And it doesn't matter how it got off track or whatever. Let's just start telling it right now, and no need to rub him by his nose in it. Just move on and tell the truth. That's what I like to see happen.
It's kind of funny. It's such an interesting predicament right now, because I can see how you were saying that in 1937, what could be motivating this kind of storytelling from the play itself, from the revisionist history, the cultural differences from then and now, especially when it comes to race relations. And now you have 87 years later, the race relations are so much worse for different reasons that I actually think that you would have more luck getting the attention of the people who do believe that men can have babies to be able to get this corrected for their own kind of and it would be rubbing your nose in it kind of stuff, because it would actually be the opposite. And I see you as an independent arbiter of history right now, but I just also see you in the middle of an incredible cultural clusterfuck that would, I'm sure you've had to just think of that before.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, because I whatever happened to just the facts, I'm not trying to repaint this like the natives never did anything wrong and, some leftist version of history, but I don't like the current far right one that we got, because none of that's real either. Why can't we just say what it is, this is what happened. That's it. They burned this village. They murdered this chief. This guy was beheaded. They had a shipwreck here. Just say what happened and not try to spin it into like, global warming somehow or whatever. Like it's really hard when you're watching these shows everything is tied to something current, and they try to use history to push whatever their current agenda is. And I wish the agenda was just, well, what's actually real? And that should be the only agenda. But I'm in the minority.
I think you already if not completely answered one of my last questions I have for you on this, which is, what lessons does Roanoke, the story of the lost colony, teach us about how historical narratives can become frozen in place even after contradictory evidence emerges. And of course, there's always, at this point in our history, there's always multiple motivations for disparate groups to want things to point one thing in one direction. You can want the same thing for different reasons, like we just had illustrated before. You just want it to be fair. Other people might want to make right what you have put forward because it would be a way to dunk on white people at this point and elevate indigenous people, because the Indigenous Peoples Day is now in place of everything else, and blah blah blah. So it's a hard place to be in if you're a person who just really wants to go where everything leads you. So I don't know, is this, and I apologize, I should have looked into it a little bit more, but I know that this is really at the epicenter of so much of your work and your research. But is there any other stories or any other times in history that you have researched as much as this? Your brother's a pretty prolific researcher, and so you obviously it's in the blood there. So tell me a little bit about the rest of what you do.
Yeah, I dive into all kinds of stuff. I've got a book on pirates called Dark Waters, and I Civil War and whatever. You just throw a dart on the map. I've probably learned about it. I just read all the time. But this is the question you asked in the beginning, like the best lesson we can learn from Roanoke is that if you want to understand history, you have to read the primary sources yourself. Go look at what was actually written down by people who were there at the events, because there is so much spin in the world. There's a million examples. Look at what Disney did to Pocahontas. I mean, she was like 9 or 10 years old and kidnapped, and they made it a love story. Columbus, it's taken forever to say, and this guy fed children to hunting dogs. He did. He was horrible, but he was also a great explorer, right? You can't believe anything that you see on any of these shows. I've been on all of them. I see how the sausage is made. They don't lie the whole time, but they all lie a little bit, and they all leave stuff out. You have to actually do the work and go read primary sources, or you're a slave to what someone else tells you. And that's the biggest thing to learn, because Roanoke is just one of a million examples. And it's not just indigenous, it happens to white people too, since you brought that up. Like, look at Billy the Kid or Blackbeard or King Arthur. It's just fiction. Anything fiction touches to make money or whatever it is, that taints history. I love the movie Young Guns and Young Guns 2. It's not accurate at all, right? But I know that. But most people don't know that.
Yeah.
More people get their history from the movie Braveheart is sick. It's not accurate at all. Okay, guys. But you can learn. Like, if you want to know what the real story is, it's there. You just have to be willing to read and to look up primary sources, and no one does that. And guys, if you want to really learn, that's what you have to do.
People like you, Scott, are going to become, and we talked about this in the past. Whenever the topic of how education is really just bottoming out, and even little things that we grew up with that was just part of our elementary school development, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, learning cursive, being able to read cursive. Primary sources, especially when you go back even just 100 years, they're typewritten ever since 1886 or something like that. But everything is by hand, everything is cursive. And the farther back you go, the more elaborate it looks, the more alien it looks. It's hard for somebody like me who writes in cursive all the time. I got pen pals all over the world. I practice at it, and I will be teaching my daughter that. But there is very, very few people out there who are teaching their kids, compared to what it was 30 years ago, how to read and write in cursive. And so many of the most important primary sources, including our Constitution. I mean, that's just... people like you are going to be the new scribes because it's going to be impossible for people to actually read it for themselves.
Well, that's sad and probably true. They are, and then the other danger is they say, well, we transcribed what it says. Trust me.
Exactly.
Better be able to read it yourself, man. Like, you need to hang on to that. That was the first thought I had when they stopped teaching cursive in schools. How are they going to read primary sources? But I don't know. Most people are not going to read primary sources from the 16th century in particular because they talk so, or they wrote differently. And some of the letters are different and everything. Read it all the time. It's easy. It just sounds normal in your head. But most people give up after about a paragraph. And knowing that, if you did have sinister plans, it's pretty easy to get away with lying because they know nobody's fact checking it. And I just don't. I'm surprised that somebody didn't do what I did a long time ago because it was so obvious what was going on.
Yeah, well, what's obvious is not necessarily what is going to be. I don't know. I think that's where it's not going to be pursued. That's probably where a lot of our frustration comes from, as we have talked about a lot over the last 10 years, especially. Is that the wars that we're fighting primarily right now are psychological wars, and to see some things that are so glaringly obvious that pattern recognition alone can really explain what the hell's going on in the world at any given time, and to have those patterns denied right in front of your face to make you feel like you're the nut job for seeing it, and then also from there, not only do you feel the frustration of not having the satisfaction of a reality being confirmed and validated, but then you have to go and work through at least the pangs of grief when you realize that nothing is probably going to be corrected about it now. I mean, you just look at what's going on and what is starting to slowly come to a head and boil over in places like Europe and Ireland and elsewhere. That's at the tail end of a few generations now of people having their history revised in another sinister way, much like with Roanoke and Croatoan, but it's different now. Now they're being told that, hey, listen, the Sudanese neighbors, they were there when England started, and it's very odd.
Yeah, well, every nation does it, and it's a global problem. And that's why it's so important to read the primary sources yourself. It's just, like I said, this thing with Roanoke it happens all the time where history gets twisted. Every war you've ever learned about, it's never what you learned. There's always more. We get a very watered down version of history in school. Even the stuff that's not sinister is still highly edited, and there's always more to it. And the only way to really know is, well, the closest that you can get to really know is to read primary sources, and no one does it. And it's just easier to watch a YouTube video or whatever. And with AI and everything else, it's all the more important that we hang on to this stuff. I'm keeping all of my books just because I don't want them to get slowly edited online or whatever,
Yeah, I know.
Seriously. I want the hard copy. I want it, print it out.
Even DVDs seem like hard copies these days, but Scott Dawson, everybody, his book, if you want to make sure that his work is on your bookshelf, The Lost Colony and Hatteras Island, you can find it on Amazon right there. It's got 802 nearly flawless ratings. And Scott, I hope that we can have you on again to talk about any number of things. It's great, really great to have you on this show today. Where if you can point anybody in the audience anywhere else to where they can find your work or reach out to you or anything, where are you most active?
Well, there's a museum with the artifacts we found in it. All the key things are there, and it's simply titled the Lost Colony Museum. It's in Hatteras Island, where the lighthouse is, that town, and you can come in and see it. But as far as online, there's a movie called Finding Croatoan, and I think the trailer's on YouTube. I don't know when that's coming out, but the trailer's out already. And just you write my name and colony, and you'll find endless rabbit hole of stuff.
Well, here it is right there, the lostcolonymuseum.com, real artifacts from the Lost Colony. There you are, your book. That's pretty simple right there. It looks like there's contact. So I hope that people check you out, Scott. And if there's nothing else, I just want to thank you for being here again.
I'll plug one more website. It's CasHatteras.com. It's www.cas and then Hatteras, Hatteras. It looks like Cash Hatteras. That is the CAS is Croatoan Archaeological Society, and that's our nonprofit that is how we dig, is we have to get donations and sell books and shirts or whatever. We're not sponsored by the state or the county, but it's a international group of scientists and a nonprofit, and that's how we do it.
Hey, you know what? Here's a question about the actual digging that you're doing. As we're looking at the Archaeological Society website over here, and you had mentioned it that when you started finding different relics and things like that that were at the appropriate depth for the time that you were focusing in on. What is that depth? And I have to like, for example, we're talking 400 years or so. What is about that depth? Are we talking in feet or still inches?
Feet. It depends on where on the earth you are, but in our case, it's about 4.5 to 5 feet.
Oh, wow.
Where you are on the island, even. The earth doesn't accumulate at the exact same rate everywhere, right? So you could have a bunch of windblown sand and have it 20 feet down, but most of the places where we're digging, we only have to go about 4.5. And you go through everything. You go through the Civil War and the Rev War and all of the different ages and straight down into the 1500s. And then we go past that. We've gone back to like 500 BC before.
Wow. So, okay. So when you're talking 4.5, 5 feet, obviously you're not using your run of the mill, metal detector that you bring into the beach to find coins. So are you using like obviously some kind of a ground penetrating radar or something like that?
No, that's not how it works. So it's like the game Battleship. You pick an area, you draw a rectangle with kite string, and then you are married until it's over. So if you better pick a good spot, because once you string it out, you're going down to at least 6 feet. And then the kind of 4.5 is where it starts to get good, right? But we're not using metal detectors because you're not treasure hunting. Like, you're not trying to make a beeline to a thing. You have to date all of the layers. And the way to do that is you have to go layer by layer. You can't have any part of the pit deeper than another part because you're sifting it, and then you're going to have artifacts from 2 different layers in there, and then you've screwed the whole thing. So you go down a layer until you reach a different color soil, or you start getting different artifacts, and everybody stops, and you kind of trowel it back to that, photograph it, measure that depth, and say that's level 1 is 9 inches or whatever, and then you're going to keep going. There's a real science to it. It takes forever. And the English make fun of us. They said that USA stands for unbelievably slow archaeology, but it is, our rules are different than theirs, but ours is actually more thorough and slow.
It does sound tedious, but it sounds very logical, and it sounds thorough as well. I guess the other thing that that comes to mind that's most obvious at this point is that when you're making your way down to what would be the level of sediment that would correlate to 400 years ago, and you're passing through the Civil War and the Revolutionary War and all that stuff, what is the coolest shit that you have found just incidentally along the way to your target depth?
Oh, that's a good question, man. A lot, dude. We found a lot of cool shit on the way down. We got this Civil War bullet. It's called a Ganganga Linears. I can't even pronounce it. It was a Italian made. It was the largest caliber fired by hand in the whole war.
Wow.
They nicknamed it the Fat Boy. And that's a really rare, Civil War bullets are common, but that's a really rare type. I think the coolest shit we found is all actually from the colony. We got a Saker cannonball, we got a rapier sword, there's a Snap-Haun's gunlock that was found by a different group. There's the Tudor Rose and the Nuremberg token are probably the best evidence, but the incidental stuff, I don't know. There's a lot of pirates on Hatteras Island, and we found these French pistols. That was pretty cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is cool, man.
That's
it's like
cool.
17 whatever. There's a piece of 8 that's a silver piece of 8. It's from a Spanish pillar dollar. And it was inside of a well. We found the whole barrel. It was like 1,700, like right on the dot, somewhere around there. And the barrel was still there, which the wood is usually gone, and you just get the hoops. But it was there, and I mean, you could probably blow on it and destroy it. So we left it there. But the barrel was inside of a well, and I guess when the well dried up, it became like a trash can because there was so much shit in there, like just broken slipware and that like pipes and just a treasure trove inside of the barrel. So that was kind of awesome.
You see, I know the cool thing is that I know that there are probably people and groups like you all over the country just taking up their little neck of the woods, knowing the local histories, like the history out there in the Outer Banks, and knowing what you want to be able to really, really color in and fill in all the gaps of knowledge and stuff like that. It'd be awesome to find more people who do what you do just in like their own respective neck of the woods, because there's just, as I always say, even just traveling through upstate New York and what over here, all of those, I guess those, what is it, blue and yellow historical marker signs that just pop up all over the place, sometimes in the middle of an empty field, a farm, nothing going on. But at some point, 250 years ago or whatever, 275 years ago, something very exciting happened that was pivotal to our, to telling our story. It's very quiet now, and there's very little interest. I just imagine all the shit that is just hiding, not in plain sight, perhaps, but just there for the finding. That's I love that.
Yeah, you never know on the Outer Banks too, because we have shipwrecks from everywhere that had ships. So they wreck and then they're stuck there. A lot of them go into the Indian village and see whatever. Not in the 1500s. That's different. But like in the 17 and especially the 1800s, everybody wrecked. We have over 8,000 wrecks at Hatteras Island. The Germans sank something like 300 ships off there during World War II with their submarines. So you could find a Roman hubcap and it wouldn't surprise me.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you'll find some evidence for Atlantis down there too at some point. But this was I'm glad that we stayed on for a few more minutes. There's probably so much more. Anything that happens, anything you find, anything you want to come show off or whatever, you just let me know, man, because this is infinitely interesting to me, and I can't thank you enough for the time you've given us tonight. And despite all of the initial problems we had with the call, I think that this will clean up nice in post.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of work in post. I tried to just say a lot because in big chunks because of the way the audio is.
It's all right. Everybody in the audience is loving it right now, and I really appreciate you, man. Thanks for everything.
Very good. Thanks, man. Thanks for the book plug too.
Oh, absolutely. I hope people go out and buy it. Thank you so much, man. I'll talk to you soon.
If they buy 2, they could read it twice.
You see? That's how it goes. All right, Scott Dawson, everybody. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
sir.
God.
All right. Well, how about that? You see, I saw somebody in the chat room mention Oak Island. That's a story I'd love to talk about. Supposedly, isn't that the island that's supposedly like all booby trapped? That there is a massive treasure at the end of it, but it keeps flooding, and it's like, isn't it like a well, a bubbling spring, or something like that? Anyway, I'll get to that after this really quick break. I want to take a break and just get your calls, your super chats. Remember, tomorrow is the drawing. It's the Thursday night drawing. We've got an ounce of copper. You want to talk about a above ground treasure? We got an ounce of silver. We've got some botanical chocolate. And of course, we've got some wonderful Father's Day gift. We have shave butter and beard oil from our great friends over there at tallow and10skincare.com, who's just in the audience. Dean and his wife, Jen. Many of you know Deansy in the chat room. Well, they started a tallow company, and I said, hey, small businesses out there in the audience, send me something to put in one of these raffles, and you get mentioned a couple of times, and there you go. You don't get bludgeoned with advertising dollars. And it's easy for the small business. It's fun for people at home who are trying to win this stuff, and I have fun doing it, and the show gets a little bit of support. So that's it. I'm going to be reading your super chats no matter where they are on YouTube, Rumble, the Rumble Rants, quite frankly, superchat.com in just a quick second. Here, laugh at this.
They call him Samurai. He speaks fluent Japanese.
Are you Fujiyama?
What does katana mean?
It means Japanese sword.
Come on. Come on. I gotta go. Drone does not have rights. You understand that?
All right, everybody. So it's time for you to call in, if just for a second, if you want, because I want to talk about what's going on in Europe. I could actually just jump into that right after I do these super chats, and then we can keep your calls to the last few minutes. I might actually get off a few minutes early tonight. Like I said, I'm going to join Matt Christensen at 9 o'clock. So who the hell knows? Maybe I'll go live on the drums for a little bit, and then I don't know. It's been a fun night. We'll see where it all leads. Jay Britt says, back in those days, men couldn't have babies. Best backhanded slap I've heard in a while. Great interview, Frank. And you know what? And that's the other thing that reminded me, that just keeping in mind, because I know I'm speaking to Scott Dawson, and of course everybody also knows his brother Ryan's work. You know, as far as where we are right now, as far as where we are in the world, here, I'll give you an example. Take a look at this. This was from Berlin last week, or whenever the hell it was. Take a look at Berlin last week. I mean, listen. This could be colorized film. This could be colorized film from the 1920s. This could be Weimar, 1920s, and the freaks that you just saw dancing around over there in the street, in front of children and everything. I mean, that I'm sure that they would love. I'm sure they would love, for all the reasons that Scott would not care about. I'm sure they would love the Lost Colony of Roanoke record to be set straight. First, they would have to be taught about the Lost Colony, because I don't think anybody even knows. Have you seen people do just basic man on the street interviews, even like Mark Dice style, like for some of his earlier days and all that shit? It's gotten even worse. You know how many it's so many people that don't even know who the hell the United States declared independence from. And it's even more basic than that, the disconnect. So as far as the relevancy of the Lost Colony of Roanoke, forget about it. I'm sure that the 1619 Project would love to hear the record corrected. I'm sure they would love it, but not because they care about They care about just the balance in history because it presents an opportunity to just continue to dig the knife in and twist. So just crazy. I know exactly. I just kept that in mind. You know, when Scott made that comment about, you know, men couldn't have babies back then. Just a reminder of the kind of tough spot he's in, which I'm sure he's contemplated from the beginning. He's out there actually going out there doing the archaeological work, and I'd have to imagine that the thing that really drives you to do something like that is love of it and the real authentic interest in everything. But there are just so many other forces out there that just don't care. That just don't care about anything. They really don't. Look at this. Well, let me get to the super chats and then we'll get back to the rest of it. Road Trip 70 says VHS is the way forward. Yes. See? Mark Kernke said it. VHS. We're going to go back to VHS. Mark the Carnivore says some coconut bucks. Keep up the great work and much love to you, the family, and Franklies. Thank you, Mark, so much. I appreciate you. My Polak says, oh, they've subscribed on Twitch. Man, I love what's going on at Twitch. The day that I look down and I see there are 100 people watching on Twitch, which it's already, you know, it's set some records before because it really wasn't ever a real serious property before, because prior to the copywriting, getting rid of all the copyright material and shoring up the intro and the intermission and all that stuff, even when we were still doing the live show on Twitch, it was getting muted and unpublished as soon as we were off air. So it was a place to watch it live, but if you weren't there for the live show, you weren't being seen. It wasn't being seen because the episodes were being muted because of all the music we were watching. Now that it's all been cleaned up, who knows? Who knows a little time and consistency? Fingers crossed, right? Zoso Dude says, Frank, just pretend it's the mystery ship and you'll feel right at home. I guess that has to do with all the technological issues. Damn, man. We lost like 5 minutes up front. That was killing me. The whole time I'm thinking to myself, okay, what do I do? What am I going to do about this? So maybe Josh will just clean it up and we'll re-upload that interview with Scott, just so we can get rid of all that nonsense in between. I know that YouTube has an editor, so maybe I can cut out a few minutes there too. You never know. I'll just find the timestamps. Okay, let's see here. Stove says, this super chat is for the one and only Quite Frankly show. Thank you for being the best independent media for us. We appreciate you, Frank. Oh, Stove. Christos and Sarah. What a great couple to hang out with. All right, over on Rumble, see how everybody's been enjoying the evening. Okay, first one up is Nephilim. Says, awesome topic for today's show, Frank. Cheers. Thank you. I thought it would be a nice topic. Jay Semo says, cheers, Frank. And of course, my great friends over there on Pilled. We'll get around to them in just a moment. Let's see here. Corey says, a chance for the silver. Silly Boar, hello. Vesper, what was the jam you were playing when you were talking to Scott? I don't know. What the hell was that? Let me look at my history. It was heavy psychedelic swamp rock, doom, blues, fuzz playlist. That. This is what bailed me out. Bong. Am I right? It's pretty good. Well, there's that. It's pretty groovy. Who knows? Probably not even human. That's most of YouTube at this point, but whatever. I needed something to play while I figured out what was going on with the phones. All right. Thank you for that. Let's see here. Smoke Sesh. Hope everyone having a good day. Hello, Smoke Sesh. AC, Vesper, Scott was mesmerizing. Valhalla has finally earned 100 gold pills from modding. Put me in the raffle, please. Oh, you're in. With the cookie, you are in. Can't wait to see who wins tomorrow. All right, so in Ireland, in Belfast, a day or so ago, we were treated to the sights of a Sudanese migrant, an African migrant there in the middle of Ireland that was sitting on top of an Irish man's chest and trying hard, actually really working at trying to cut his head off. We're not going to play it. You've seen it, you've seen it. A nice migrant sitting on top of a native and trying to saw his head off with a knife. It's probably a ceremonial knife as well. Well, it's been revealed that the Belfast man who was nearly beheaded by an African, he's actually alive. I think he lost an eye, but he's actually alive. The Belfast man was helping his eventual attacker move in as his next door neighbor just 4 days prior to the attack. So something triggered the new well-adjusted neighbor that totally belongs in that part of the world. And that's what's going on there. There's a lesson to be learned. A lesson to be learned. What was it? The frog and the scorpion or something like that. Here's a screenshotted tweet from our friend Ren, raw egg nationalist. Been placed on top of the blurry image of the Sudanese national who's sitting on top of the native Irishman with his bloody knifed up hand. And Ren says it's 2026 and you wake up, you log on to x.com and there is an African sawing an Irish man's head off in the street. And the British government says to stay calm and avoid watching the footage because it is distressing. It's scarcely believable what we're supposed to tolerate. And that is what is not being tolerated anymore. Belfast, at least for now, is up in arms. They for a moment there, for about a day, they were going door to door looking for migrants. They're going door to door. And I'll tell you, man, it just wouldn't happen if politicians did their jobs. And that is to take everybody out. It's time to go. We're hitting the reset button. This experiment didn't work. We'll call it an experiment to be diplomatic because we know that this was always the intended outcome. There is no way that you have transplants of people in this large of a number from incompatible cultures into the West and think that this is not going to happen in short order. And then for your position to be evasive and obfuscating and gaslighting along the way only continues to confirm our suspicions that this is all part of a plan. And people are not going to be told to not look at the video. It's distressing. And please don't project this onto really well-meaning, hard-working, mostly dependent refugee classes, and people are not taking it anymore. As you know, it's bad enough that the domestic economic policy of all the leftists that run both the United States and Europe are making a lot of people who have been here for many generations come to grips with the fact that they are going to just have to work harder and find new ways to make ends meet and perhaps leave something to their children. Because this really, I'm sure it's just as stressful if you don't really have a family to support, if you're on your own, if you're a bachelor, if you haven't gotten to that part in your life, but you want to, so you see it as a hurdle, or maybe you are just flying solo. It can't be easy for anybody to pay your bills. But then when you add more people into the room and you just think about that, you're contending with policies that make no sense whatsoever and disenfranchise you. And then on top of it, there is the inability to even walk in certain parks that you grew up in at night anymore, depending on what's been injected into your small countryside. You know, it's one thing The United States, it's very easy to kind of hide and not feel the effects of what's been happening in an increased sense in the 1960s when you're talking about migration and everything else and illegal immigration. It's a little bit easier to hide people in the United States in a 50-state union the size of a subcontinent. But when it comes to a place like Ireland, where overnight a sleepy little hamlet somewhere in the Irish countryside can have anywhere from 500 to 1,000 Africans show up and just be placed there, and have a motel or a hotel that used to be a nice little hub for some summer tourism, have that turned into a subsidized migrant hotel instead, and have instantly the place that you grew up in have its identity changed in an instant. This is stuff that people are not. It's insult to injury to injury to insult, and this is what's going on. Here's a little bit from Think About This. His own personal, I think he's a local out there, and he's talking about what he's seeing on television.
These are clips coming out of Belfast after a man was nearly beheaded on camera. Look at this. Most shops and schools north of Belfast are closed down today. You go into shopping centres and this is what you see. Nobody. I want to give my thoughts on this because I see a lot of people condemning it and saying what they usually say. The same time this is happening, so the same week as a man was nearly beheaded by a Sudanese man, the trial of Riyad Chakra, I think I'm pronouncing it right, is ongoing. This is a man, an asylum seeker, who arrived in Ireland in 2001. He arrived as an asylum seeker. He was refused social welfare payment. And he decided then, once he was refused social welfare payment, to go out on the street and try slit the throat of 3 children. 5 and 6-year-old children. They were in junior and senior infants. Imagine it, 5 and 6-year-olds. And this Algerian man was trying to slit their throat after school. That court case is ongoing. It's happening right now. And I want to read you what one of the parents has said about the child. She is currently, this is 3 years on, she is currently in a wheelchair and she is non-verbal. So she can't talk. She is learning how to swallow. Her nutrition is all through a tube in her stomach. We ask her yes or no questions and she blinks to give us the best of her answers. So imagine this is your 5-year-old. She has to do double the work. She cannot go to the toilet by herself. She cannot reach for anything by herself. I cannot convince her to fall asleep. She has to take medicine to fall asleep. If she gets too excited, hot or constipated and it's very severe, she has to be sedated.
I can't listen to that anymore. I can't listen to that anymore. I'm rooting for the Irish to continue turning the tables over. I'm rooting for it. It's there is no nuance here. Everybody's got to go. I'm rooting for the Irish. It had to start one time or another because there's no diplomatic way through this. It's not even the African or the Middle Eastern invaders, to be honest. They're just the pawn. We talk about it all the time. I'm sure there's some good people in there mixed in who are going to catch shit because of it. And it's just, unfortunately, it's class detention at this point. It's the people who imported them who need to be dealt with the most harshly. It's the people who imported this need to be dealt with. And that's where the uphill battle is. We're not only facing a horde of foreign nationals, but also the Western governments who sponsored them with the explicit purposes of destroying our homes in a much more of a psychologically damaging way than those same governments destroyed the Middle East and North Africa. Okay? It's the same people. The war on terror and everything else like that. We lose no matter what. Citizens lose no matter what. Unfortunately, part of the psychological aspect of it is we need to actually battle. We need to battle out our own friends and family now who are so fucking stupid. So stupid. So incredibly stupid. That's what we're distracted with, because that's what they do. Make sure that we are so divided on the most commonsensical things so that we can't link arms and just hang traitors. That's what we're doing here. That's what's going on. We lose no matter what. Citizens, that's how they designed this game, so that we lose no matter what. We didn't want any of the wars. We didn't want any of the wars. And then they often use the destabilization in those parts of the world that they destroyed as a reason why they have to bring these animals in. This is not penance we should pay. But they're going to make it that way. They're going to call you racist if you don't want to. And that time has passed. Nobody cares about being called racist anymore. I know there's a lot of, people, a lot of pawn-like people out there who really have nothing to stand for, nothing to really gain throughout any of this stuff. But the people behind them. Here's one I saw before. This is shocking, somebody said. He should leave the country for his own safety. The government should halt immigration entirely and start remigration. It's no longer safe for them here. And he's talking, there's somewhere in the UK, this black guy, I guess he's a migrant. I see no chances. All I see is racist faces. And he was on TikTok. And he's getting in front of a marching group of people who obviously have had enough. And I don't know if you'll see what happens. He gets, boom. So he got a kick right to the back and all with it, and down he was. But here it is. Zoomer Historian took this, retweeted it, and put some commentary on it that I think is actually, it's actually fair. Whether it's a good thing, I don't think anything. The situation we're in, not a good thing. But as far as fair, logical, Zoomer Historian says you can tell how fast things are moving because this guy took this video expecting to be safe. A cheeky performative video to label Whitey as racist for some social media grievance points, deep down believing that we aren't actually that racist. But no, Whitey is actually that racist now, and he got socked in the head. What have we been saying? What have we been saying? Yeah, we have to find a way to navigate ourselves through these rocky waters here, because your instincts to spot patterns and to have situational awareness and to defend yourself, that's always going to be triggering. They want to trigger you into action that is emotional because they knew that we were not a nation that had a race problem up until about 2008 when Obama showed up. And so many people thought that we were actually going into race relations in nirvana, and how stupid were we? I was one of them. I was one of them thinking, wow, it's the final culmination of all the great things that we grew up thinking about our country in the 90s and everything we overcame. And then it was just one grenade placed in our laps after another by the great uniter himself. And it's not all him. It's not Barack Obama with all the marionette strings and stuff like that. But that's just, listen, that was a watershed moment. And it has been nonstop since then to create racism where they damn well knew there was not nearly enough of a racial kind of sentiment or a racial kind of a temperature increase. They had to create it. We saw it with the SPLC, and now that the books are open on what they were investing into. I mean, I still can't believe what we were reading last week. The SPLC, that was actually the fact that they actually have as some of their receipts over there from like Michael's or something like that, cross-burning materials. So it wasn't one thing that they didn't have, one of the last 5 remaining KKK members in the country on their payroll to the tune of 6 figures. Okay? You can make more as a KKK Grand Kleagle working for the SPLC than you can doing most things in this country, okay? And it's because of the SPLC. The fact that they couldn't even, they said, listen, we're going to pay you 6 figures and we're also going to buy you whatever cross-burning materials you need, sir. Just make sure, we just need something here. Everybody's way too polite. Well, I mean, now it can actually get really dangerous. Now it can actually get really dangerous. And you know what? I can't, for all of the bullshit that's thrown our way over here with how, especially people who are supposed to be representing the so-called black political cause, which is always a backwards cause. They're always trying to hurt blacks just by merit of how ignorant the whole narrative is on that end of things. I think that is obviously ridiculous. There's nobody out there hunting black people in the United States. But I think that everybody's becoming a lot more racially aware of what the main messaging is now, with no mask whatsoever. No mask whatsoever. What we're seeing just with this ridiculous Carmelo Anthony thing. You would think that this would be, if this is something that people would excuse, nah, they gotta go. They got to go. There's got to be an exile island. There's got to be an island of Elba or something like that. We got to find an island better than what we sent. We sent Napoleon to Elba, but he was able to sneak off the island. We need to find an island where we can send all of the leftists, black, white, and everything in between, to this island, and there be no way. I want to see the utopia that they create. I want to see the utopia that Democrat Island creates, where they have nothing but their own resources and their own grievances. Remember, the only commodities they really have is, how they were wronged and by whom. And there's no conservatives there, black or white, because remember, if you're a black conservative, you're not black. I would just really love to see what that island looks like. But as far as the island of the islands over there in the UK that constitute the UK, it's just a self-defense response at this point, and it's really one of those things where they have to find a way. How are they going to deal with their government? How are they going to deal with the government? Now, I want to show you something. Who's this? Representative Brandon Gill? Representative Brandon Gill. Congressman Brandon Gill. I want to show you a little bit of, he was talking to a pudgy pencil pusher with liberal cat lady glasses, a guy named Mr. Newman over here. And I want you to just see a number one of like the faceless people who every once in a while in these congressional hearings has a face. The small army of freakish nerds who will do anything they can to bring in the waste for whatever reason they think it's going to result in. I don't know, but take a listen to this.
Should illegal aliens receive taxpayer-funded unemployment benefits?
It's not an area of my expertise either. My concern primarily is
your organization
that I work with
promoted a petition telling Governor Newsom to sign AB 2847. This is your organization, the
Mr.
National
Chairman.
Day Laborers Organizing Network. AB 2847 will provide unemployment benefits to workers who are ineligible to receive unemployment insurance solely due to their immigration status.
Mr. Chairman, if I could answer your first question.
Yeah, I'm asking you, do you think that illegal aliens should receive taxpayer-funded unemployment benefits?
Well, first off, I don't know what you mean by illegal aliens, but if you're talking about residents in the state of California, then the answer is yes.
People who entered our country illegally.
People come here for all kinds of reasons.
Wow.
And
without
all kinds of ways.
documentation.
Residents in California.
Should illegal? This is a really simple question. Should illegal aliens receive taxpayer-funded unemployment benefits?
I think people in the state of California should receive benefits.
So illegal
according to law.
aliens should receive taxpayer-funded unemployment benefits.
Again, that's your word, and what I'm trying to get you to do, Congressman.
Well, what I'd like to do is I can't say it on air. I can't say it on air. That's what I like to do. Look at that face. Look at that pudgy fucking face. And just know that he sits around with his bougie little friends at company holiday parties because he would never Christmas. It's Snowfest. We're gonna have a Snowfest. He sit around with his ugly sweater on and some eggnog with jizz in it. And he'll slurp that for a little while, making fun of all the people that he's stealing from. So for what reason? For what reason? I would love to hear it. You know, every once in a while we hear it. We hear it every once in a while. You know, the Kalergi people, we hear it. Gosh, that's a face. That's a face, isn't it? It's just so much going on. So yeah, I can't say that I want to see the world go up in flames, but at this point, I do want to see Europe save itself. I want to see Europe get saved, and I'm not talking about the kind of saving that Barbara Specter, Lerner Specter, talking about. You know, where Europe is not going to be a monolithic societies that they were anymore. They need to be multicultural. They were multicultural, Barbara. They were. Germany to Austria to France to Portugal to Spain to Italy. They were all very, it was a very multicultural continent. No doubt about it. So the whole idea that the cultures need to be killed in order to be saved, it has to be the opposite that. Because, of course, he's talking about, well, whatever words you want to use. Yeah, I understand. I understand. We're dealing with the actual snake from the Bible here. Everything is a lie. These are biblical snakes. Just nuts. So that's all I have for you. Now, I got to leave because I am going to go and I'm going to go take this over to Matt Christensen's front step, and we're going to go until about 9:30. So you can go to Matt Christensen's YouTube. You can come on over to The Pilled. For Flipside, you'll be able to see me and hear Matt. But if you want to see the fully produced show, that's on Matt Christensen's YouTube. And that's where we're going to be. That starts in about 10 minutes. So I want to go over there so he's not making buttons, because I always make him so nervous. In fact, this is what he said today when he emailed me. He texted me before. He said, here's the topics I'm organizing for tonight. He gave me some things and that he wanted to go through. And he says, all right, man, that's it. I'll see you at 8:59 and 59 seconds Eastern time. So I can't do that to him again. It's already 8:51. So that's it for me. Tomorrow's going to be a great show. I don't know about Matt, but I have a lot of awesome topics for tomorrow night. Things that were left over from earlier on this week, some dream stuff, some brain-related stuff when it comes to just really creepy shit that can happen to you as far as reality construction goes. I also want to talk to you about what we had brought up on the Friday morning show last week on the 5th. I can't believe it. It's almost a week since the VIP night. It happens all the time. I mean, soon it's going to be a year since the Jamboree. Just so crazy. But we're going to be talking about the 250th concert that was just canceled. And I want to really start grabbing artists from you guys. We're going to put together our own concert tomorrow night. And I can't wait to see what you guys think about it. We're going to rip on everybody who left and really wonder why you couldn't put together a really good bill of all-American bands and artists who may not vote the same way, but who are willing to just put politics aside to capitalize on celebrating a very special thing, 250 years since the Declaration of Independence. And I want to see what you guys come up with tomorrow night. Somebody already told me, Frank, I think Cannibal Corpse would be great. Yes, that'd be amazing. Cannibal Corpse on the 4th of July. That would be fantastic. Well, you know what? Anything's better than a fucking rally. I think a parade would be awesome, and a great big concert would be awesome. But that is for tomorrow night, and I can't wait to see you guys then at 7 o'clock. For now, please like this stream, leave a comment, and by all means, become a sponsor. I would really love to sell out all of the 1985 Station ID clubs on Patreon and Subscribestar. Okay? Both of those links are on quitefrankly.tv sponsors page up top, or you can find the links in the description of this episode. That would be awesome. Because all these breaks we're going on, I want it to be filled with Franklys that are actually doing the Station ID, where you are saying, hey, this is so-and-so from blah, 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 or doing so-and-so, or skydiving, or whatever the hell else, and you are watching Quite Frankly. Now, skingly do and pingly bobble. Whatever. Do it. Be a part of the show, sponsor the show, but also be on air with me. Thank you. That's all I have for you tonight. Thank you again to Scott Dawson. Go get his book, and I will see you guys tomorrow, all right? Should be a good one. No doubt about it. Oh, hold on one second. Genie Yankee fan over there on Twitch. Thank you so much. Israeli crypto something boss? Sub boss? I don't know. We have an Israeli crypto something over there. Watch out. Odd Lighting, thank you so much. 2 months on Prime through Twitch. That's great. Man, Twitch is on fire. I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Head on over to Matt Christensen's show.
I'll catch you on the flip side.
Quite Frankly is filmed before a live studio audience. And now our super chatters. Thank you, everybody. Genie Yankee fan, Odd Lighting, Jay Brits, Road Trip, Mark the Carnivore, My Polak, Zoso Dude, and Stove. Thank you to all of our Rumble Ranters and our Gold Pillars. We'll get to you in just a moment. We have a few moments before we call up Matt Christensen, but I'll see you in the chat room. If you can't find the link, then please just type in quitefrankly.tv or go to Matt Christensen's YouTube. See you later.
Quite frankly, he's amazing.